Hello there, welcome to the PlugBox Podcast, where we discuss all things EV and renewables and generally have a damn good chinwag. Anyway, on with the show.
Good evening, Mr. Pete.
Hello there.
Good evening. How are you?
Splendid. Another week, another PlugBox Podcast.
Yeah, here we go again. Is this episode 10?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. So welcome everybody to episode 10 of the PlugBox Podcast. Another week, another fun-packed session of interesting things to talk about. And I think this week we're going to cover certainly 3 items, if not more, as the evening goes on. Starting with the Opel Manta. Then moving on to maybe a little bit of discussion about MyEnergi. And then we'll wrap up with the F150 Lightning.
I like how you
sound good to you?
with a list.
I know where I am with the list. Without a list, I'm just in trouble. I'm going to be lost. So I've got to be prepared. That's just who I am. So, Opel Manta, the GSe. When are they going to build this then?
Well, it's a concept, right?
Oh, it's just such a shame that it's a concept. I really hope they put this into production. Because what the Manta is a... well, certainly this concept is a rejuvenated sport coupe from, I think, the 70s. So it's an old car, the Manta, and it looks the business. But they've, of course, brought it back as an EV. So, of course, it's going to have all of the performance features that come with an EV. So quick off the mark, etc., etc. But it's 2-door, rear-driven, and it has a manual box.
Huh? How?
I don't know. I don't mind how, but it does. That's the point. But that's not the first EV that we've seen with a manual box, is it? Because the Jeep, I think we discussed not so long ago, also had a manual box.
True, and I think there's some like resto mod cars, right, that have manual gearboxes as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. But this is a great looking car. The concept in lurid yellow takes me back to cars of old. Yeah, and I think could be one to look out for. It doesn't give any indication as to when or even if it's likely to make production, sadly, but they are talking about electric motors with reasonably high amounts of torque, no battery size. No, I tell a lie. They are talking about a 31 kilowatt hour battery pack. That's not so big.
Rather modest.
Yeah, we're talking claimed range of 124 miles, which will be a real range of 80 to 90 miles. Oh, come on, let's make it usable.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that most EVs generally go somewhere between 3 and 4 miles per kilowatt hour, would you say that's, not so much, right? 90 plus miles.
No. Unless, of course, it is designed to be a weekend plaything, which is plausible. But nonetheless, if I'm going for a weekend plaything, I might want to go somewhere, not just locally. That's disappointment. So as you can probably tell, I'm reading this as I go. Up until that point, I was rather excited by it. And now the wind has somewhat been taken out my sails.
Yeah, unless it's going to be like a super small, city mini car, which it doesn't appear to be. Why would they not just sling the 50 kilowatt hour pack from the 208, 208 Corsa, blah blah blah, all those other PSA or Stellantis group cars in? Because clearly it's going after the same kind of modern retro market that the Honda E is going after. Yep. But again, I'm not sure there's many people that dislike that car, but equally there's not many people buying it because of the same reason. It's not got a very usable real world range.
Correct. Yeah, that's a disappointment, I have to say. But as we know, it's only a concept, so it doesn't mean to say that that could be revised as time goes on. And as certainly we've talked about in podcasts gone by, I think a usable range of 200 miles is very acceptable. It doesn't need to be any more than that, but from a 50 kilowatt hour pack on a car like this, I would have thought 200 miles is close to being achievable, certainly in the right conditions.
Yeah, the interior is a bit funky though, right? Like the steering wheel is not, it's never going to happen, right?
Well, there's probably no airbag in that concept. I'm not aware of being able to package a driver's steering wheel airbag into such a small center bezel, but if they do, great. It's just a Momo wheel, as I think you said earlier.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, the interior is very minimal. Very minimal. I'm also looking at the image of the interior with a hand window winder as well. There's no electric windows in the front.
Not very stylish, is it, when you've got to wind your window up at a McDonald's drive-through?
Look, you're not going to have your windows up in a car like that. Awesome. Looks great. Needs a bigger battery. Build it anyway.
Here's hoping.
Interestingly, actually taking a small digression, another car with a limited size battery pack is the Honda E. As we know, it's a fun car. It's small, of course, packed with technology and, let's face it, more screens than most houses have these days. But the battery's quite small, so fairly limited range. I saw that this week that is on a list of cars predicted to end very early in terms of its production run. That'll be a shame, I think. But I don't know how well they're doing, I must say, with sales of that car. I haven't checked, but I love the Honda E. I think it's a great looking little car. Again, a bit limited on mileage, but it's clearly a very small city car, so doesn't really need it.
No, and I think that was the problem in it. Is just to go full automotive. Me and you have been around, and we won't talk about the thingy, but there's so many cars that come out that journalists at large rave about, and then no one actually buys them. Yes. Like the Alpine A110, sorry, I know it burned some fossils, but no one had a bad word to say about it. Everyone loved how it looked, and it was a good homage to the original A110, and it drives so well, and blah blah blah. But no sod bought them, and it's the same thing as the Honda E. It's just like, okay, it's a bit pricey, and it doesn't go very far, but it looks fabulous, and the interior is great, and you can plug in Nintendo into it, and you can feed the fish on the aquarium graphic on the dashboard. But as you say, I don't know who's actually buying them. I do a lot of driving, and I think I've maybe seen one or two in the real world.
There's certainly an awful lot of ex-demo Honda E's available for sale from dealers who clearly can't shift them, I have to say, which is a shame.
Yeah, I guess the problem is it's a second car, or it's a station car, but it's north of 30 grand. At which point,
for a second car, that's a lot of money.
Yes. At which point, it's not a station car or a second car because it's too damn pricey.
Yeah, most people's second station car is a bicycle, really, or an umbrella.
Fair.
Yeah, shame.
Cool. Okay. What's next?
MyEnergi. Do you know about MyEnergi, Pete?
Are they putting the I in British innovation?
Are you reading that from the website?
Absolutely not.
So for our listeners who are listening abroad or who perhaps don't know, MyEnergi actually are a British company. And I have to say they're doing some pretty remarkable things. their website claims to, well, not claims, they do a manufacture of energy control products. So essentially what they do is they create some hardware that, when paired with a photovoltaic system, siphon off the excess energy being produced and make better use of it. So rather than sending it back to the grid, it allows users at home to control the excess energy being produced. And they have a range of different products. Most notably, I think, is a car charger called the Zappi, and it has the capability of fluctuating the charge rate of your EV, depending on how much solar is being generated, which is, I think, a very novel and great product. They started with the V1 a while back, and they got some successful funding, I think, through one of the crowdfunding websites. I don't remember which, but they're now onto their second generation, and it's very favorable amongst installers because it's super simple to install, doesn't need an earth rod, very quick to do. And full disclosure, as you have done in the past, Pete, I have a Zappi V2 charger at home. The guy that came to install it did a great job, did it very quickly, and pretty much convinced me that that was the way to go. Other products they do are something called the Eddy, and I think the Eddy siphons off excess solar energy or wind energy, I hasten to add, and can either heat the hot water, so through the immersion heater it switches that on, or your underfloor electric heating. So very good products. But one of the things I've been looking out for some time now is a battery. So there's been some rumor now for around a year that they're working on a battery, and I think in the last day or two, their CMO has hinted that they have been working on it, but have had some difficulty over the last year for obvious reasons, global pandemic, and maybe even more recently, semiconductor shortage has prevented that. But I think with their home battery option, it could complete their ecosystem, their energy ecosystem, in the current time. That would be one that certainly interests me, because I have a feeling they're going to do something modular. So you can buy a certain number of modules depending upon budget or usage, rather than going for something like the Tesla Powerwall, which is large capacity and perhaps even too large for many households, one option, and is extremely pricey. So I'm hoping to see something offered from them in the next year or so. Be some hard decisions to make whether I went for home battery. I've said in the past that I wouldn't, in the hope that I can use my car in the future rather than paying for a home battery as well. But certainly watching that one. Any comments, Pete?
Yeah, I think a good thing that MyEnergi are doing is trying to make, it's a bit cliche at this point, but an ecosystem of products, because at the minute there's no company that you can really go to that, if you so wished, had like an end-to-end product catalog. So literally, panels are a bit of a commodity at this point, but panels, inverters, batteries, management system, inversion heater.
You're dead right. You'd get an LG solar panel, you get a Solar Edge inverter hooked up to your Tesla battery and your Zappi charger.
Yeah, and it's not for people that are kind of brand snobs or something, but it's so that it all integrates well. And it seems to me, I would imagine that behind closed doors, there will be a MyEnergi product roadmap that actually, other than the solar panels, as I say, that are kind of just like a white good at this point. Like, it doesn't really matter where you get them from. Some are more or less energy efficient, some are more or less pretty, but they all roughly do the same job and send some electrons down a cable. But yeah, if they have a battery, then that's kind of completing the circle. In terms of, you can then, from your panel, either send energy to your car if there's some excess, or, as you say, send it to your immersion heater or Eddy or whatever they want to call it, or you can store some in a battery and then it's there for backup, and it could be there for heat pump, all that kind of stuff. So I think it looks like they might have a roadmap towards kind of that end-to-end product catalogue, because other than, I think Samsung have some home energy solutions or business energy solutions, but like a lot of Samsung products, it's a bit grey and not so accessible or so visible. So and it's got to be good them being a British company as well. So good luck to them.
Yeah, very much so. They're certainly growing. I think they're in the process of moving to new premises, and they're pretty much already outgrowing that based upon demand of Zappi and their other products. So yeah, absolutely. Good luck to them, I would say. Pete, we're lacking on segues today. We're not doing so well with that.
No, the segue score this week's not very good, is it?
No. So I think that brings us to certainly our last item on my list.
What's that?
I think you want to bring the Ford F150 Lightning to the table.
Oh yes, I think it was launched early hours of Wednesday morning. For is it Wednesday morning, Thursday morning? Anyway, it was launched in Wednesday in the US, and it was a very typical American show. It was very big and very loud, and very American.
It needs to be for this product, I think.
Yep, definitely, and it didn't disappoint.
Right.
I mean, it was 30 minutes long, so anyone that's got 30 minutes, I would recommend to go on the YouTubes, of course, after you've watched Podcast Pass from PlugBox. But as I say, if you're on YouTube for half an hour, it's worth a watch. So Ford's headquarters famously are in Dearborn in Michigan, and their headquarters, as you can imagine, is huge. And somehow they rigged up screens that were as big as the building. So if you imagine I don't know how big it was, but a 20 or 30 story building, and it had these massive screens in front of it, it properly dwarfed the stage on which the presentation was made. But as you say, the event needed to be larger than life. And I mean,
but for them and indeed American culture, this is a paradigm shift. This is a car that has been staple of American culture now for many years. So to move from, let's be honest, gas guzzling vehicles to an electric one, they needed to make a song and a dance about it.
Yeah, and not to spoil it, but at the end, they also rolled out the Ford Transit, the electric Ford Transit, which is maybe more of a European-centric vehicle, and of course that's still sold in the US and around the world as well. And we call them a panel van, but the Ford Transit is the most sold commercial vehicle anywhere on earth. So that arguably is almost a bigger deal, and it was just kind of a footnote at the end of the presentation, as well as the Mustang Mach-E, I think GT or GT line. But anyway, the quick one was kind of rolled out as well. But yeah, in terms of the F-150 Lightning, it's super impressive. Do you know what I mean? It's I think 300 miles is the quoted range for the extended range battery. So whether there's going to be a smaller one than that or not, they didn't really get into the specifics of battery size, maybe because they don't want to upset too many loyal customers that perhaps aren't on message yet in terms of kilowatts and kilowatt hours and all that sort of stuff. But they're really the front trunk is amazing actually, because if you have a look at these big American trucks, they have really high and really huge bonnets so that you can generally shoehorn in some 6 or 7 litre V8 into it. Well, of course, you don't have an engine, and the electric motors are by design tiny. So I think you have a 400 litre boot or frunk up front instead of an engine. So the entire kind of front bonnet opens as like a clamshell.
With the grille, with the emblem on it as well. The whole front end opens up.
And not only is it 400 litres, but you can also put, I think, 400 pounds up there, which is I say just shy. It's maybe 180-ish kilos. So you can really put a lot of gear in there. You could throw quite a few cement bags or something very rough, tough up there. But yeah, that was interesting. And the other thing is the vehicle to load aspect of it. So I think they did something ridiculous. There's like 20 plus different sockets all the way around the car. So I assume that includes USBs and 12 volts. But in that frunk or fruit, depending on which side of the water you're on, you had a couple of power outlets and some in the bed and some in the cab. But as like most things,
there's standard electrical outlets and 2 USE chargers in the front alone, whatever that means.
So, like most of these things, it's a different spec, but I think the top one is 9.6 kilowatt output. So,
yeah,
I mean, there's not many things, and actually there's multiple things you can run, but there's not many things that require more than 9 kilowatts to
You could probably run a tumble dryer, boil the kettle, and run a toaster at that value.
Yeah.
And that's a high loads for a UK house.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ford said 3 days, and we've discussed in podcasts prior that American homes use a lot of electricity. But yeah, they reckon that an F-150 Lightning can run an average US home for 3 days. So it's just a great utilitarian vehicle, and as you say, will be a paradigm shift, because at the end, not only did they announce the great news that it's going to start from $40,000, and that's before any federal or state tax credit, and of course, spec will go up from there.
Point.
Yeah,
that's £28,200 for anybody listening in the UK. That's got to be price comparable for the combustion version.
Yeah, because if you get that base spec, which is $40,000, in the US that is less sales tax. Sales tax or VAT has to be included in the European price. It doesn't in the US. But even if you say it's 20%, which is generally not in the States, it's generally about half of that. That's $48,000. And because Ford haven't really made any electric cars, they still have access to the $7,500 federal tax credit, which again knocks it back down to $40,000, and that's before any state subsidies. So, like in New Jersey, Vermont, California, that have huge and multiple state subsidies and state grants. You're talking less than $40,000 for an electric pickup. And not only that, I think Jim Farley, the president, mentioned that, of course, there is business spec cars as well that have got the lowest TCO, or total cost of operation, or ownership, should I say, of any truck. So, it's great for the individual private consumer, but big fleets and companies that buy these in the quite literally hundreds of thousands a year, that's what they care about. As long as the range is enough, and I can't think that 300 miles isn't enough. They don't really care whether it's gas or electric. They don't really care how it looks, and it looks great, by the way. You can get the fancy screen from the Mackie in the center console.
It does look good. I'm not often a big fan of trucks, but
no. And they're going to say actually, it's just better for my bottom line.
Yeah. Credit where credit due. They've done a great job with it. I think it's a fine looking car. I can see pictures of it towing, which is great. I saw even this week Mr. Musk actually congratulated Ford on it, which is good news. I think his aim was always to try and encourage others to make the move to electric, and Ford certainly have. I wonder if it's got Tesla worried with the Cybertruck, and even Rivian also entering the pickup truck market. This is going to definitely set the cat amongst the pigeons, especially priced as competitively as it is.
Yeah, as you say, neither you nor I are truck folk, but you can't say it looks bad. No. I think it it still looks like a truck, but it kind of looks, I wouldn't say modern, but looks fresh. And yeah, maybe Tesla have not moved quick enough because, the whole point of the Cybertruck was that it looked different from that kind of classical truck silhouette that every car, whether it's an F1 F Series or a Ram, or a GMC, like they all pretty much look the same from a silhouette point of view. And as you say, with Rivian, it's this kind of the same. It's got the same classic silhouette, but looks quite fresh. And I think Ford have kind of followed this, especially with the light bars up front and round back. So yeah, but
there will be endless
sell
special
well.
versions of this coming. Yeah, absolutely, it's going to sell well. Yeah, I think so. I would definitely take one if I was living in Michigan.
Well, you'd need one for the potholes, but
yeah. But being a Ford, I can't imagine this is a long way off. I mean, it looks very production ready. Did they give any indication of when it would go on sale?
Yeah, so I think they said spring 2022, and they've already announced it's a 22 model year. So the US, like some other countries, are quite, from a regulation point of view, are quite specific on model year nomenclature. So if they're announcing it's a 22 model year car, then it's pretty much set in stone at this point. That it'll come out, I guess, in the first part of 22 to meet that requirement. Otherwise, they'd have to sell it as a 23. So, look forward to seeing it. There won't be so many won't be any at all really in Europe. But if we can get gas cars off the road, or petrol cars or diesel cars off the road, then more's the better. And don't forget, as I say, massive fleets buy these, and if the TCO is lower, then that's what they're going to go for above and beyond anything else. And another large swathe of consumers for this car truck is people that just want a big car to go camping in, or to go tailgating in, or for the family. Do you know what I mean? It's not necessarily tradespeople. So again, having an electric truck in the suburbs and in cities can only be better for air quality in the planet as well.
Sure enough. So that concludes everything I've got on the list. However, are you going to give us an update on the Zoe, the love affair? How is it going?
Yeah. So obviously last week I had a bit of a moan about some of the gripes I had with actually getting the Zoe, but now I've got it. The car's great. The Onto app is great and super quick. I guess it works on Bluetooth because you can only unlock it and lock it when you're kind of in sight of the vehicle. But that also means that it works really quick because your car is communicating directly with your phone rather than through a myriad of cell towers and satellites and servers. So that's super quick. You can still use the native, in this case, Renault app, and I think the other cars that are on Onto's panel as well, you can use the native app as well. So that's good. But yeah, the Zoe's great, really. Do you know what I mean? It's a little car, but Renault are good at making affordable small cars, and that's exactly what it is. The one thing that's quite interesting that was good from an Onto point of view is I expect to do quite a lot of miles this month, and as standard, you get 1,000 miles a month, so 12,000 miles a year, which is plenty for most people. But as I say, I'm going to drive a little bit more, and there's an option now to add some more miles. So did that, 40 quid for an extra 500 miles, which is perfectly reasonable. So tick that box, and again, in the app, it shows you updating in real time your mileage remaining for the month. And pretty much as soon as I ticked the box, went back to the app and it had updated. So, as I say, with Onto, the software side seems to be really nailed down and robust. The only place where it really fell down is when I had to actually speak to a human. But no, the Zoe's great. Where I'm living at the minute, there's a Tesco with a 22 kilowatt post at Tesco. And
is that one of the free Pod Point ones?
Oh yes, it's glorious. So how Pod Point, obviously, I've got a a partnership with Tesco. So pretty much all Tesco extras, the big ones, big supermarkets, will have some level of charging, and where they fit rapid. So if the Tesco has a rapid charger installed, it will also have a 22 kilowatt post along with the 7 kilowatt. So the 7 kilowatt ones are normally like the big Volkswagen screens. And then there'll also be a separate post that's 22 kilowatt, as I say, if there's a rapid on site, presumably for the high voltage connection. But yeah, even though the Zoe, as I say, is a small, affordable city car, it has 22 kilowatt AC charging on board.
It's quite rare.
It is quite rare. Oh, it's a very expensive option in the case of the Porsche Taycan. I think it's about $2,000 option. But yeah, I don't do a big shop, but I was maybe in the supermarket for 40 minutes, and it had charged from, I think, 30% to about 80%. So it was really quick and free.
Quite a lot of miles in a Zoe.
Yeah, so I think I've been getting, even on the motorway, I did a good motorway run with the car all packed up and me in it, aircon on, 65, 70 miles an hour, and it was doing 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour. So it's pretty much all you can hope for, really. And it's got, I think it's 52 kilowatt hour pack, so probably high 40s usable. But yeah, when you're bearing that in mind, you're talking about pretty much 200 miles real world range. As I say, at motorway speeds with someone in it, with it packed up, AC on, all that kind of stuff. So impressive little car really for £400 a month through Onto. And I've noticed in the last week or so, Onto have been announcing some of their own news actually. So they've added some more cars. So they've now got the Volkswagen E-Up. A name close to my heart being from Yorkshire. It's nearly A-Up, but the E-Up. So I think that's from £339, which, when you bear in mind there's no deposit, is maybe not affordable, but it's good value, especially month to month. There's also the 2008 as well as the 208. So they have the 208 and the fancy one as well, the GT. But they've also got the.
I'm a bit disappointed you didn't go for the 208, but at the same time, I think it was quite a lot more on the On2 service.
Yeah, so I think it's the best part of £500 anyway. So it's quite a chunk of cash. So as I say, they've added the 2008 now, which is good. And they've recently reduced the price of the Citroen. No, sorry, not Citroen. Not supposed to call it that. The DS Crossback E-Tense. So they've reduced the price of that, because that again, that was. I think you're supposed to call it a DS, aren't you? Don't know. But anyway, whatever it's supposed to be called, another PSA group car, which is basically a fancy 2008 anyway. It's the same 50 kilowatt pack that charges at 100 kilowatts anyway. They've reduced the price of that because, again, that was north of £500, so it's quite pricey. And then big news actually for On2 is they are let's see if I can get this right, the official subscription partner for Fisker.
Okay.
So Fisker are apparently launching a car soon, although apparently they've always been launching a car soon. But when they do launch a car soon...
Yeah, but they've just opened a showroom, I believe, next to the Apple store in New York with actual cars in it. Yeah, so
apparently the, what's it called? Fisker, is it Ocean?
Yeah.
Onto will be kind of, official partner or delivery partner or whatever you would call it. But Fisker will be making cars available through Onto. Probably not cheap, but nonetheless a cool way to test that car out for a month or two if you want to, once it lands, but maybe doesn't land for another probably a year or two at best.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a
seems
really
like a
interesting
great
business model. Yeah, it's exactly that. At this point, I don't know.
It's a good way to get a prolonged trial of the car, I would say. Yep. If you're interested or unsure or about making that step, the option is there. Take a car for a month and see if it works for you.
I think it's the convenience of, you pay for the convenience as well, but it's the convenience of having everything included, from insurance, wear and tear, right down to charging. So in the next week or so, I'm hoping to receive my InstaVolt card, and then I'll have access to the Shell network, the BP Pulse network, and the InstaVolt network. I don't really know what more you need from a charging point of view. And,
I might get a segue point here, but I also heard InstaVolt are pairing with Costa Coffee to roll out chargers at their drive-through coffee shops. I mean, I think they've got a few already, but this is becoming a little bit more official and widespread, which is also good news, because InstaVolt are a good charger, reliable.
You pay again. You pay for the reliability and convenience, but maybe you accept that for the fact that on a rainy British evening, you just have your credit card and it works. You're not fumbling around with apps and web pages and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, InstaVolt's interesting because I think they had a partnership with some KFC franchises, and I think they announced recently McDonald's and Booths, convenience store locations, and now Costa. So
see EV drivers having trouble with their waistlines at this rate. If all of the chargers are located on site of fast food vendors.
Perhaps, but it's good business for those guys, right? Like it'll increase footfall, it increases residency time. So partnership made in heaven, really. So good for InstaVolt and good for Onto.
I think so. So how much longer have you got with it, this Zoe of yours?
Until I get my next car through work, I suppose. So maybe a few more months yet, and you never know.
You're not going to be able to let it go. I can see it already.
I'm getting a bit attached to it,
Good, and I'm not surprised, because Zoe's a good little car. Always has been, and I have to say the facelifted version with the slightly larger battery makes it a really tempting offering for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's not the most masculine of cars, but if you can look past that, it does everything that you want of it.
I think you can pull it off, though, Pete.
Oh, of course.
Man of your stature.
That's it. And on that note,
does that wrap it up for another week? Episode 10, PlugBox Podcast is complete.
That's it.
So I think just a gentle reminder to like and subscribe. All of our previous episodes are on YouTube. If you can't find them on there, you can always find it through our website at www.plugbox.co.uk. Should we finish there?
Perfect.
Let's do it. Thanks very much, Pete. Speak to you again next week.
Cheers.
Bye now.